Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today is the Sidewinder LFC prospect and LFC Madness participant, Miss Andre Shakti. Andre, it's a pleasure and a privilege. How are you?
It is absolutely a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. I'm great.
You're very welcome and awesome. I mean, God, woman, you are killing it right now in the tournament. We're already on round 3. Voting closes tomorrow, and you have been ripping ass this whole entire
Is ripping ass the appropriate term? Because I feel like ripping ass implies I've just been like farting up a storm the entire time, like throughout the
well, I look at
ass or
well, I mean, if Stone Cold could talk, Stone Cold could talk about ripping ass and raising hell. Oh, hell yeah. Why not? Right.
All right. I don't know. Maybe he was really stinky and that's why he just like was superior over his opponents. You never have any idea.
Yeah. What? Oh my God. Well, first, just going off topic, I will say this. The fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled a match in 2022 this year at WrestleMania against Kevin Owens and killed it. You never thought
killed it.
And he killed it.
No, it's like a football grade, especially with all of the the injuries that these athletes incur with pro wrestling, like the head trauma, the trauma to their bodies, obviously these are all independent contractors. So I feel for them so hard. And then to see someone who spent so much of his career in the ring come back, and get back in the ring again and like consent to doing all of that to his body, right? Just to get that fucking win. Like that is dedication.
Absolutely. And I mean, I look at it from stands too as well. What was so cool about that is he was doing his thing with Kevin Owens and everyback's thinking, okay, it's going to be a talk show thing. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do a little review segment. No, the man took a suplex on concrete. He's taking a backdrop on the ramp. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And it was
that's what they want you to think. They want you to think going into it. It's just we're just going to talk, it's going to be a little play-by-play, maybe a little shit talking, and then it always just escalates to like the nth degree. I love it.
It's a beautiful thing about coming back and making an impact and getting that final closure in your career. But what is not closing right now, my friend, is the fact that LFC Madness is still going on. You're looking forward to going to round 4. You are currently taking on Franny Duran, the Lady Queen, in round 3. How you feeling going against the Lady Queen?
She is so hot. I'm having a lot of trouble. I just this is what happens when you are a woman who loves women is that you look at a woman, especially another wrestler, another fighter, and of course you're taking them in as a professional, right? You're taking in their stats, you're taking in their background, their expertise, you're trying to look for any vulnerabilities, in their past matches, the way they move, things that might throw them off or trigger them. And then, you have that professional demeanor, right? But then there's also the part of you that's like, damn, that is a fine ass woman. And so I've been struggling with the LFC prospect voting rounds because we don't actually get to meet these wonderful people in person, unless of course I end up with Franny in the top 2 at the end of the voting. But I got to tell you, this is probably the matchup that I most wish I could do in person out of any of the previous ones.
You're actually one of many people who feel that way. And I look at it, mind you, folks, it is a bracket, but it's one of those things like these so many different outcomes and also different bouts that we would want to see in an official LFC event. And I'm going to say right now, you already got the trash talking down, Pat, you promo assassin. The only one who's done a promo this entire LFC Madness against Stacey Sadistic. The only one who's done a promo for promotion.
I know. And listen, I got a few up my sleeve over these next few days. So don't think that the shout outs are over or that the call outs are over. Like they're still coming. They're still coming.
And I got to say, as far as Stacey Sadistic goes, another amazing talent, and amazing human being.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Another one that I was like, I would give my right tit just to get in the ring with her and climb her like a sequoia tree and just bring her down and just make it like, she's incredible. I hope I get to meet her in person one day.
The same. And I think what I also love about it is the great thing about LFC is their diversity. It doesn't matter shape, size, what have you. Like I'll say this right now in the official history of this LFC Madness. I know we're into the 4th one. We had 3 amazing transgender talents and one.
I know.
And one. Oh my God. All these have been amazing so far.
Well, that was actually one of the things that that really attracted me to LFC. My friend Daisy Ducati has fought with you guys, and I heard a lot of positive things from her about participating in the league. And I also did a little research on you all. I looked at some of your matches. I looked at some of the previous prospect lineups, and I saw that diversity. I saw there are these bigger women in the running. You know, there are women who are not stereotypically, you look at them and think, you know, a lot of the voters have been saying, wow, it's a lot of porn stars. Well, it is. It's a lot of porn stars, and there are reasons for that. You know, the location of LFC, the popularity of sites like Evolved Fights. But there are also a lot of people coming from different, you know, strokes of life, different experiences, different backgrounds. And I saw that you had multiple transgender women running. And as a queer person and a queer advocate and ally, and someone who frequently, you know, tries to elevate and support and work with trans folks, you know, part of me was almost sad that I lost against Stacey, because I wanted her to be, you know, the first transgender. That was a hard match you did with me, because I wanted her to be the first transgender woman to fight at LFC, but I want to win more. So
I think you being paired with Stacey, and I got to say, a lot of people that got to be paired with a lot of amazing people. It was a tough for a lot of people, because I mean, who doesn't want to see the first trans athlete, like you mentioned, at LFC? I mean, we look at it in wrestling with Nyla Rose doing her thing as a part of the
yes. Oh my God, Nyla Rose is murdering it right now.
right? Yeah.
Ugh.
And that's the thing you have to look at and take into account too. I mean, what's great about it too is, like I mentioned, girls like Monica the Flower Bomb Garcia, and I look at girls that have done things from the curvy side of things. Shelby Paris will be here all day. You have to have that diversity, number one, but also number two, and I'm going to say it bluntly, who gives a fuck? Because we're all as a people, internally and externally, right?
Yeah. We want to see, we're here for the fun of it. We're here for the sensuality of it. And we're here for the sport. Right. And none of those things should have anything to do with what's between somebody's legs when they're wrestling. Like that all, you know, I've seen largely, again, so much support from the voters, but you know, you read the comments, and I've seen a lot of people make some negative comments about Stacey, especially. And you know, that was very disheartening to me. But at the same time, that's not representative of who LFC is and who LFC continues to be. And yeah, I will take on any opponent in the ring, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, body size. I don't bitch about what I get slated. I look forward to it.
I hear you. And what I love, I hear you 1000%. I look at it from a stance too as well. I've had Ariel X on the show, and this is what I love about it. Everything coincides, right? Evolve Fights, LFC, everything coincides with one another, and everybody has done both forms, right? What I love about Ariel X's thing as well, like yourself, it's beautiful women, it's fighting, but the end game, everybody wins at the end game, because you know you get the fucking winner, right?
Exactly. Now I will tell you, so I've been working for Ariel. I was working for Ariel, God, a decade ago, I think, at Ultimate Surrender, when she was still running the Ultimate Surrender shoots at forkink.com. And those shoots, you think Evolved Fight shoots are extreme. If you've only ever watched Evolved, you need to go watch Ultimate Surrender, because those shoots, it was grueling. We would be on set for sometimes 6, sometimes 7 hours. We are for real going 100% at each other wrestling. There were like 4 10-minute rounds, and then my dumbass, I'm going in and like, you know, I'm 22 and I'm like, yeah, I'm here, I'm ready to go. I'm thinking naturally the person who loses is the one that has to then do all of the hard work in that last round of like fucking the other opponent, like, you know, really aggressively, you know, in a very dominant way. And like, or like the way they like it, you know, I was like, oh, if I win, I get a reward, right? I won that for the very first match I ever did on Ultimate Surrender against Dylan Ryan, who outweighed me by probably 30 pounds. And I'm 5'5", she's about 5'9", 5'10". Thought I was gonna absolutely just eat shit. I end up winning. Dylan and I are still very good friends to this day. And then I find out live on set that I have to now spend the next hour and a half fucking this person aggressively with a strap on, which is one of my favorite things to do. But at that moment, all I wanted was a fucking Epsom salt bath and like a nice little neck massage, you know? So we really go like those, you know, a lot of people shit on the porn athletes, but we go just as hard, if not harder, than real life matches. And unfortunately, I wish some people could see that, you know, could understand that and experience that. But you're right. There's a very like beautiful interplay, like copacetic relationship between all of you guys happening in Vegas specifically.
Well, Vegas being the combative nature and being the fight capital of the world. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where we're going to be for the next event, May 13th, is the FSW Arena, Future Stars of Wrestling, which brought a lot of great wrestlers to many different wrestling companies and auspices. So, I mean, you're in a prestigious building. You're in the heart of the best independent professional wrestling, companies in Las Vegas. So, I mean, it's a nice blend, and it's great. I'm going to tell you right now, yours truly will be ring announcing the event. I hope to see you there, Miss Andre Shakti.
Hell yeah, I will definitely be there as long as I remain at the top of that voting list. So folks, pick up your game, step it up. I mean, I've had like a nice hold over the prospects this entire time so far, but I know that can change at any minute looking at these talented ladies that I am up against for these next 2 rounds. And all I can say is that you all vote me in, I will be there and I will show up 150% and not disappoint any of the fans of the LFC. So fingers crossed.
Exactly. And I'm going to say this about you right now. Everybody has a nickname, and that really showcases the talents and everything that goes into it. It also brings everyone up their character side of things. The Sidewinder. First of all, I love the name. And number 2, how did that come into fruition? I love the Sidewinder, Andre Shakti. I love it.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first started Ultimate Surrender back again about 10 years ago, they told me the same thing. You need like a fighting name. And back then I was I still am. I'm very, very Italian. I'm second generation Italian from Sicilian immigrants. And so I chose the Teflon Don because people can't stick to me. Right. But that became a little bit of a mouthful. So I went through a little bit of like a reinvention, and the Sidewinder, I actually am a huge reptile nerd. I am a veterinary technician during the day. I own and breed exotic reptiles. So a snake was very attractive to me. And I'm very fast. I am very quick. I make very quick movements and decisive movements when I wrestle. And so I wanted to be like a striking snake, but I also didn't want to poach something from Kill Bill, right? I'm not going to be the Black Mamba. I'm not going to be the Viper. So I was and I have very good side control game when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When it comes to my floor game, I have excellent side control. So naturally, the Sidewinder just kind of came into play.
I like it. I'm going to say right now, and I know you popped for this because I put it on my Facebook, man. I mean, Avenged Sevenfold. I'm a pop culture nerd. I had to incorporate the promotion with a little Avenged Sevenfold with their song Sidewinder, which if anybody has never heard, it's a great song, right?
I don't know. You know what? I will admit, I wasn't a big Avenged fan when I was younger, but I definitely will give it a listen. I mean, I love relevance. So
I hear you. I mean, for me, I grew up, I'm a 90s kid. So 2005, when Backcountry came out, that was the middle school anthem for a lot.
When were you born? How old are you?
30 now.
You're okay. You're a man now.
Yes.
All right. Not too much into the 90s. Just checking.
Right. Hey, I'm just saying. Well, I'll say right now, I'm in the dirty 30, folks. I just turned the dirty 30 as it's known. So yes, I hear you.
Ooh. It's an exciting year.
It is. And I mean, I look at it from a stance too as well. Life is a blessing. It's another year, right? We're here on this planet, eh? Yep. Now, for you, Miss Andre Shakti, I will say as well, besides the LFC, and another one I mentioned, Daisy Ducati, you talked about her. First of all, folks, we've not seen Daisy Ducati from the adult side of things and from the LFC side of things. She's been killing it in LFC, doing her thing on many events. I gotta say also, Kaya Eve, who was a part of one of the LFC.
Yes, Kaya. I know she was in the running originally, I think, and then she got voted out early. Yes. I think she is such a busy woman. I mean, I didn't even blame her. She didn't have time to do promo, but you better believe Kaya Eve and I, if I get to Vegas next month, we are meeting up again and we are going to shoot some more content. That's the other bonus of getting me to Las Vegas is if you are a fan of mine, if you're a fan of mine from Evolve, you're from Ultimate Surrender or from Academy Wrestling or any of the other wrestling sites that I've been on, I'm not made of money. I live on the East Coast now, so I don't get to shoot as much as I once did. Bringing me out to Vegas always means that Ariel and I are going to get together and you're going to get some fresh new content out of my time in Vegas, in addition to being able to see me on LFC. So it's kind of a bonus for everyone, and Kaya, talk about someone who was very disarmingly attractive while I was wrestling her. She is an incredible sex fighter. And that is something I struggle with sometimes, even being as much of a lover of women as I am, because sometimes I just get very technical, and I have to remember that the rules inside of a technical ring are very different than the rules inside of a sex fighting ring, for pornographic purposes. In a real live LFC fight, I'm not going to get an extra 5 points for getting my fingers in the pussy, right? Like, that's not a part of it. But with Kaya Eve, I'm trying for that pussy all
day. Well, I'm going to say, okay, so what move would that be then? So if you're talking about like so I'm going to say right now, was it like it's like the cooter, like I'm going to say right now, I'm going to put it there. It's like a cooter punch,
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, my favorite is either getting them inside control, right? Like with my left hand, I'm right hand dominant. I want my dominant hand to always be in between the legs because it knows what it's doing. And so I either get someone inside control, hold them inside, and then I can just play with them in between their legs with my other arm. I have a very obnoxiously long ape index for someone who's really short. So I have a really big wingspan, and that helps me out a lot when I am wrestling. Or I can always do a reverse head scissor and then head scissor them and keep them between my legs, while now my whole face and both of my hands are free to do whatever they might want to do with the lower half of that beautiful lady. And so, yeah, I definitely have some very individual moves, that I've been working with.
To make a pop culture reference, it's like when Jim Carrey was talking about nothing can stop the claw in Liar Liar. It's like the claw.
Oh, one of my favorite scenes. Come on.
Nothing can stop the claw.
The claw. And the stepdad's trying to do it, and it's so like obnoxiously not hitting. Like the claw's
coming to get you.
Oh, I love it.
Oh man, well, also you could, like we were talking about the different body types, you could also equate it to Blackstreet. Curves the word, spins the verb, no diggity, no doubt. Got the bag.
Why are you literally in my head? And any of the folks that have been following me know that my primary work is in the adult industry, and I kind of spread. I run the gamut between stripping, which was my first true love in the industry. I've been dancing for 14 years. I do a lot of crazy pole stuff, which is where some of these guns come from. And one of my favorite songs to strip to is No Diggity by Blackstreet. And DJs always look at me like I'm crazy when I suggest that song. But I love it. Like, I strip for myself, right? If anybody else enjoys what they're watching, bonus. But I strip for myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't burned out of all this time. But you're just killing me with the cultural references. You're just slaying me over here. It's like you did a background search on the things that really activate me.
Well, to be completely honest, every time that topic comes up, I always equate it to No Diggity, because number one, again, 90s kid, but also number two, that's a fucking great song. Like, who doesn't love
great song?
It's a fucking great
Who doesn't fucking love that shit? No.
And that was the pivotal point. And also Blackstreet has many great songs, from No Diggity to Don't Leave Me, the ballads. They are one of the best R&B groups of the 90s, right? Yeah.
100%. 100%. Yep. And that's a lot of what I dance to too when I'm on stage. I like a lot of 90s and early 2000s like hip hop R&B. I like a lot of different kinds of music. But when I go to a strip club and they're like, "What do you want to play?" I'm like, "Give me some Luda, give me some Lil Kim, give me some Blackstreet." I'm like, "Fuck it, give me some Earth, Wind and Fire." Like, I'm like, give me some of that era, right? And like Boys to Men, even sometimes. Gosh, I'm like blanking now, of course, because I'm on the spot, but that's like those are my jams. That's what I like to pound it out in the pole to.
With Earth, Wind and Fire, who doesn't want to hear "We Can Boogie Down, Down, Let's Groove Tonight" while you're on the pole, right?
Also, you have to dance every September 21st. All I'm saying, I always make sure I'm on a strip club stage every September 21st so that I can just dance to September.
Oh, yeah, all right. Okay, I dig it.
Their saxophonist just passed away too. I know we're getting so far away from LFC right now, but my brain is just pinging all over the place.
First of all, for anybody that's seen that show, this will always have a lot of pop culture reference on it, so you're fine.
Great, beautiful.
You're cool. But no, I mean, I look at it from a stance too as well. Like we were talking about, you have to have that mixed. I'm just gonna say it right now because it's got to be the stripper June. We got to talk about Genuine Pony. That's got to be on the playlist as well. If you're honey,
I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
Like it's, some of them are just, there are songs that you just get sick of hearing when you work in a club. Van Halen's Girls, Girls, Girls. No stripper is ever going to be excited to do Girls, Girls, Girls. Same thing with Pour Some Sugar on Me. If you request Pour Some Sugar on Me, wow, you're the first person to ever request this song, So there are like some songs that they're so notorious in strip clubs that the strippers will just roll their eyes all the way back in their head and be like, do I really have to do this? Plus, I think Pony, I really think that that's now Tatum Channing's song. I mean, I don't think Channing Tatum's song. I just like totally flipped his name. But I think that's his song. I don't think anyone else really can. I mean, after the Magic Mike series, I don't really think anyone can outdo Channing Tatum. So why try?
So as someone who currently lives and has been down here a lot in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for those that have seen Mike, they go down to Myrtle Beach in one of them, and where they actually shot on Ocean Boulevard.
Yes,
not too far from where I live. So yeah, it was great when that.
Isn't that where the stripper convention is supposed to happen? In the second one, it's in Myrtle Beach. Yeah, and they go all through the South. But yeah, yep.
Hey, I can't look at Backstreet Boys as I Want It That Way the same again after he just goes in there and does the striptease for the girl and tries to get her to smile, and then she just laughs right at the end of it.
My favorite scene, God bless that scene. The thing that I really love about that movie, A, it's one of those rare occasions where the sequel is actually better than the first film. And B, there's this beautiful conversation that happens in a car with Childish Gambino and Matt Bomer. And they're like driving away from like Jada Pinkett Smith's like huge, amazing like sex emporium that she created. And, they're talking about the work in the car, and Childish Gambino is like, even if like my album dropped tomorrow, it's so funny because it's so meta, right? He's like, even if my album dropped tomorrow and it was a huge hit, I still do this shit. And the guy's like, really? Like, why? And he's like, first, do y'all see how many women I meet for free every night? And it's like, yeah. And then second, he's like, people don't ask women what they want. No one asks women, especially if we're looking like a very heteronormative, view. No one asks women what they want. And all they want to hear is, what do you want? And how much this work is just as tittillating as it can be healing. And that was such a pivotal conversation, especially to see that conversation happen around sex work on a mainstream screen. That was huge, especially for someone who's been in the industry so long. Like that was pretty impactful. So
I hear you. And for me, like with this show, as it's titled Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, what I always love about it is I don't care what you do. I love the fact that we got a lot of beautiful females such as yourself doing their thing. What I love about it too as well, who cares about the side of things? And why I always bring that up is because when I started getting into the podcasting game, I started interviewing people, wrestling, music, all facets of life, like we talked about from all facets of life. And when I started interviewing people in the adult industry, people looked at me like, why? And I'm like, well, you have a platform for people to tell their stories. People don't realize how much work goes into a scene or a content that's being created. So it's there's a lot of interesting factors that go into the work that is the adult entertainment industry and the overall representation of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, again, remember, most of the feedback from the fans and everything I've been seeing is so overwhelmingly positive. But when you are reading those occasional comments that are obviously kind of snipping at the fact that these fans are seeing more people involved in the adult industry as prospects than maybe they have before. I mean, I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Number one, our society is slowly becoming hip to the idea that sex workers are multifaceted individuals that actually perform legitimate and legal labor. And, while I don't think I'll ever see sex work decriminalized in my lifetime, we've made huge strides that are putting us more in the forefront of, in front of people, in front of the masses, the mainstream masses, and really like selling us as, hey, like, I don't know if y'all knew this, but these people also have brains. They have like houses and like kids and families and lives and partners, and they have talents. They are amazing aerialists. They are incredible. They have a PhD. They are talented athletes, and I wish I didn't have to talk about this in this way, but this is still a new concept to people. And it's maddening the double standard, right? Because you know that all these men that have a problem with porn performers being on LFC are also watching us fuck in their downtime, probably not paying for it on tube sites. So that, like, the hypocrisy, especially of like that kind of feedback, so to speak, that kind of critique, it used to make me angry, and now I just laugh at it, because we're going to dominate the whole fucking world and they're just going to be left behind in the dust. And I like being on the right side of history. So
I hear you. And what I love about it too is, and of course, in your first round bout, you got to go against Paris Knight, who has done her thing in the adult entertainment industry.
Yes, very much. Very hot.
And the thing too, what I also love about it as well is when it comes to the adult entertainment industry, I think, for instance, like I was the kid, like everybody knows what your Cinemax and your Skinemax is. When you have Cat House, the series, and then there's a late night film with like Nicole Sheridan and Willa.
Oh, HBO Real Sex was there for me in the early 90s.
Right, I hear you. And I think the beginning of, I remember like as a kid, like Spider-Man is the big thing, the first one in 2002, right? And then we get to Spider-Babe, which was the porn parody film of that, and it was the same plot as Spider-Man, but then the scenes would be like she fucks them after she saves them. Like that was the integral part of like what the porn parody was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's what I would want. I am a very dominant person. I also have been a pro dom for probably 11, 12 years now. And that also makes up like the kind of the other half of my sex work right now, especially being in Baltimore. Not a lot of porn content to shoot aside from solo content. Not a lot of other performers around here in the area, to be quite honest. So most of my work is between stripping and then pro domination. And yeah, I mean, if I'm exerting a bunch of labor and energy and time to save all of you, and if I am sacrificing my own health and safety and well-being to do so, then at the end of it, I better have complete and utter access to your body as a thank you, because that makes the most sense to me. So I'm super into that idea. Look at the cat! Oh my gosh! Is that a Himalayan or a Persian? What is that?
That's a Persian. I love you, buddy.
It's a Persian. Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Thank you. So if anybody's seen in the background, my cat, Mr. Bo, wanted to make an appearance. So anyway, going back to the show, what cute cat.
There's a lot of pussy on this podcast. A lot of it.
Like your style, absolutely. So folks, what I wanted to incorporate with that as well, like you were talking in regards to the dominatrix side of things. Well, which first of all, who doesn't love a good fetish? And I think what's great about fetish work as well, different preferences, what makes us all unique as people. And it's funny because I'll go back to the pop culture side of things. I remember seeing, MTV True Life, early MTV True Life. One of the early episodes was True Life, I'm a Dominatrix, and they focused on people who like the dominatrix work, and they showed these mistresses doing their thing. So I'll be honest, that was my first introduction to the dominatrix was MTV True Life, because they covered everything back in the day, right?
Yeah, they totally did. They didn't shy away from those topics, and some people, like, especially doing advocacy in this industry, some people like will look at something like that, like an early 2000s episode of True Life, right? And they'll be like, oh my God, like, why is that even out there? It's perpetuating so many bad stereotypes about pro-doms. Like, it's not accurate. It's not, all these things. And we can critique it to hell, right? But at the same time, exposure is so important. And like you said, you might have spent years more without ever knowing even about like that facet of the industry without being exposed to it through True Life. And it's the same way with 50 Shades of Grey for me. Like a lot of people in the kink, most people in the kink community, BDSM community, spit on the grave of 50 Shades of Grey. I do, like, if you ask me that, I do. I don't necessarily think it's a hot take, so I don't think I need to talk about it very much. But at the same time, I'm mostly grateful for it because it brought conversations about fetish and BDSM and kink, again, into like mainstream households in America in a way that it hadn't before. And so for that very like exposure level, there is something to be said for exposure paying off. We just can't pay our bills with it,
I hear you. I get it. I get it. And I think what also is very cool about it. Now, I'm going to say this because we're going to get into some wrestling here because Miss Shakti enjoys some professional wrestling. There was actually a professional wrestling tag team. So the Basham brothers were a great tag team. For those who are fans of like the Ruthless Aggression era, where John Cena, Randy Orton, and all these guys came from. So the Basham brothers, their gimmick was they were managed by a woman by Shaniqua and was a dominatrix like tag team. She was like their dom. And their finishing move as a tag team, folks, their tag team finishing move, what was the name of it? The ball and gag.
gag.
The ball and gag. It was a thing. It was early 2003 WWE. We had the Basham brothers with the ball and gag. The ball and
I love it.
right?
The ball and gag. Yep.
Ball and gag. But yeah, no, you see stuff like that in so much popular culture with professional wrestling. Now, mind you, yours truly is rocking the Rock t-shirt as we're doing this show. I know you're a big fan of the Rock, so
I'm a huge fan of the Rock. I mean, I'm a huge fan. Here's the thing. I'm a huge fan of the Rock, and I'm also a huge fan of Dwayne Johnson, right? Like both of his identities in that way have been, I think he's an incredibly healthy, what's the word I'm looking for? Example of masculinity. I think that, he, especially when, in the 90s, when you're watching The Rock wrestle, right? And you're watching pro wrestling, and there's nothing more masculine, right? Than being this like huge, famous pro wrestler that like throws down and breaks chairs over people and like just smashes and bashes, right? There's nothing more masculine than pro wrestling. But at the same time, he could have grown up into this person that, look at Conor McGregor, who's honestly a piece of trash. He's a piece of trash human being. And yeah, he puts on a good show. People love to see him fight, but he's a piece of shit. And whenever I see fans really getting behind fighters that are also really awful people in real life, it always makes me kind of go, because there is a way to not do that. Dwayne Johnson has now grown into this, he makes fun of the toxic masculinity. He plays with it. He intentionally in his acting career puts himself in roles where he appears, quote, soft. He very much promotes like his daughter and his relationship with his daughter on social media, him in tutus, playing dress up with his daughter. I mean, again, this is The Rock, right? The Rock is in a fucking tutu playing dress up with like a little girl, right? And he pulls it off and he makes it work because it's so natural, right? He doesn't make a big deal out of it. He's just a really great example of like a strong, ethically masculine human being. And I ship that hard. I can ship someone's fighting prowess, but I ship them harder if I know that they're doing the work and they are kicking ass and they are putting on a good example in, quote, real life as well as in the ring. Like that makes me really want to back somebody as a fan,
Right. And I mean, well,
yeah.
Like you were talking about with the game plan when he's in the tutu and he's dressed, which is amazing. And then
yes.
Right. And he could play the Tooth Fairy. And I remember like when he did, remember the rundown from back in the day with Sean William Scott, and he did the rundown.
Yes.
Okay. So I was there at SummerSlam 2002 where he lost to Brock Lesnar for the title. Right. And then everybody booed The Rock because they knew he was going away to film the rundown because they felt like, oh, he's too good for the wrestling.
Sell out. Yeah.
And that was some of his best stuff was Hollywood Rock when he came back in 03. Yeah. He was talking about, Cleveland rocks and Cleveland sucks. And he's making fun of the hometowns. Like, who doesn't love that? Because it's heat. It's cheap heat, but it's funny. Yep. He can make it work.
Yeah. And again, it's also like, the like professional wrestlers, as I mentioned before, they're treated really horribly. A lot of times they're treated really poorly. A lot of them don't have health insurance. A lot of them, they get injured. It's a lot like sex work, which is actually, I think, why I glommed onto wrestling so much, to pro wrestling, because they're just like us. We're sexual athletes, porn stars, strippers. We are sexual athletes. We just don't get paid nearly as much as professional athletes do. We don't get half as the recognition or respect. Our industry is still so criminalized, even though we're doing legal work. And a lot of us get workplace injuries. We don't get workers' comp. We want to have a kid. We don't get maternity leave when you're a dancer. And wrestlers are the same way. They don't get, if they get injured, they're on their own. One injury can end their entire career. And if you're in your 40s as a pro wrestler and that's all you've been doing, where do you go from there? Right. So in a way, I almost felt like it was unfair because I'm like, okay, this guy is successful at this. Good for him. He's moving out before this industry breaks him. Literally, right? He's moving up and out. Like he's found a way to like evolve and continue like succeeding. And it's seen as a betrayal, So I just, that always irked me. It seems like a lot of times people making decisions for their own best interest becomes some kind of controversy. And it shouldn't. That's that's how I feel about it. Like, we should never force somebody to stay in the ring for years and years and years at their detriment for our entertainment. You know, like, you have to be an ethical consumer of whatever the fuck you're consuming.
Right. And I'll make another example. When Hulk Hogan was doing like Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny and all those films back in the 90s. And I mean, you look at women, and I'll say Mickey James was another one. Like, she's a country music star. She put out a country record. I mean, John Cena, look at what he's doing now in the Hollywood.
Exactly. Come on, Cena's killing it. Also,
and that's the thing too. I think it's great to be a pro wrestler, but I can see a lot of these people, whether it be movies or what have you, you have to have that backup plan because you're not going to be wrestling forever.
Just like sex work, you got to have that backup plan. Yep. It's always got to be there. It's always got to be there. You know, that's why I love animals. I grew up with animals. I'm an excellent, surgical technician. I love doing that job. I ideally would be able to just full-time focus on sex work, and that would probably provide me with more opportunities within the industry. But at the same time, it's nice having balance in my life, right? When you are like in a hypersexualized workplace all the time, you don't want to leave and then be like in another hypersexualized space. You need that balance, right? So like the puppies and the kittens and stuff, they really balance out the other side of what I do for a living. And also tax purposes, right? Tax purposes, legitimacy purposes. I mean, I actually did buy a house 2 years ago as a full-time sex worker. And let me tell you, it was a nightmare during COVID as a full-time sex worker who had no like reportable income. Like, I had no paychecks, you know what I mean? So that was definitely an experience, but I did it, I did it. But yeah, I definitely have that career running parallel to my industry career because I know that everything has a time limit, and we don't always know. I might sit here and be like, oh, I'll definitely be doing this for the next 10 years. Well, what if I get a knee injury in 5 years? Now all of a sudden I have to think about transitioning much quicker than I did before. So yeah, always having put that money in savings, always have that backup plan. Yeah.
And that's how you have to look at it too. And I think whatever endeavor that anyone pursues, first of all, go out there, go balls to the wall and kill it, whatever you do, whether it be sex work, professional wrestling, what have you. One of the things I always love saying, I think you can agree with this quote here: life is an art form and we're all applying our crafts. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's what it is at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I look at it from a stance too as well. I think what a lot of people can gravitate towards you, Miss Andre Shakti, from the imagery side of things. I mean, you got the badass tattoo, you got that edge about you. I think you're one who has that very much that gravitational pull towards you. So I can see why a lot of people get attracted to you from your overall work and your overall being. So I get it.
I appreciate that. I also really, I'm a few things that are unusual about me, I'm looking because I always look at the stats. I always look at all the stats for everything. And I've been following these prospect rounds really closely. And, I look at like when you guys post on Instagram, you post on Facebook, you post on Twitter, and most of when you guys advertise my rounds, they're not getting nearly as much likes or engagement as the other performers. And I'm noticing that the voters do respond to physical appearance. They do respond to more stereotypically feminine women. They do respond more to women that have been in porn, funnily, in a way. There's a beautiful blonde, Melanie, who's running in this.
Yeah, Melanie Monroe.
Yes. And I mean, you look at that woman's social media feeds, it's all ass all day, every day. And I'm like, yeah, who wouldn't want to see that ass on screen, right? At the same time, I've been doing this way long. Like, I have been in this industry for 15 years. There are clients that I've seen as fetish wrestling clients that I have known for 12 years, people who are closer to me than family members, than old friends of mine. I have my roots in this industry. I have my foundation solidly in this industry. And I gotta say, I'm a hell of a good time. People might not respond to my photos. They might say, oh, she's too masculine, or, even compared to someone like Stacey Sadistic, they'd be like, oh, she's too small. There's no way she could take on someone like that. And those are just people that haven't seen me fight and haven't met me in real life. And because I've been in this industry for so long, and because there are so many people in my life, both, my personal life and my work life run very tightly entwined together. People who know me in quote real life know my work name, know how to find my work. People who know me as a sex worker know my legal name. They know like where to go to get all the dog and wholesome photos online, like and stuff that I share about my life that's not industry related. And I think that makes people feel closer to me because I'm so out. I think it makes people feel safer when they're with me. And I mean, you can just see with the votes that even if the LFC community isn't familiar with me yet, hasn't seen what I can do, hasn't, quote, met me, which I guess they'll get to do through this podcast, you can see in the overwhelming number of votes that my community has my back and that my community really wants to see me take this thing because they know how excellent I'd be at it. And so, yeah, the low likes, the low engagement from the LFC crowd doesn't get me down one single second because I know as soon as that I make it to Vegas that I'm going to win over all the folks who doubted me online.
And I can't wait to see it. And I know you continue to flourish. And I will say this, for those who have not seen LFC, the alumni that we have from the professional wrestling side of things as well, we have Roxy Michaels, who was renamed Michelle, the wife of Drake Maverick, formerly in WWE, Shelly Martinez, who was Ariel in the WWE. Like, we got a background of wrestlers. We got a mixture of adult stars. We got everything for everybody. Rock your body. Backstreet's back. All right. Anyway, I digress.
You couldn't help yourself. Couldn't help yourself.
It's the jam. I'm going to say right now, that album just turned like 25 years old, and it's still the jam. It's crazy to think about that, right? Like the first time that came out was like 25 years ago, right?
Well, I think to be fair, I think it's the jam for our generation. Right now, our generation are, like we're consuming a lot. We're paying a lot, I mean, pre-COVID, all of the movies that were coming out, a lot of the music that was coming out, the music was sampling a lot of like 90s, early 2000s. It still is right now. The movies were really speaking to people in our generation, especially when it came to like Marvel and DC. Like they were acknowledging that all of these like nerds, right, were growing up now and we're like in their 20s and 30s and we're like paying consumers. And so I feel like a lot of the media in the past few years has been really directed at our generation. And I think we've been very privileged in that, right? And I think it spurred a lot of, these artists, these actors, these people of our past to reemerge, right? And to jump back into acting or jump back into music or jump back into wrestling, right? So like I love it. It's like a snake eating its tail effect happening right now, and our generation just gets to flourish in it and feel like really seen and acknowledged and recognized. Yeah.
Right. And what I love about how everything coincides from the pop culture world into the sport and art form world, what I always loved to about it with LFC, I always equated it to, for those who are unfamiliar with the LFL, the Lingerie Football League, like every Friday they would play the game on MTV2, and it was just badass women in lingerie kicking ass and playing the great game of football, like adding the sex appeal. And it works. That's what I've always equated LFC to, because it works. Stuff like that works for the consumer.
Yeah. But here's the thing, if it was just a bunch of women on that field in lingerie and they sucked,
right,
no one will want to watch it, right? True. It has to be that combination, like that fine line that you ride between sex appeal and between actually putting on a quality performance or a quality game, like whatever you're doing. And because if one of those things is missing, you're going to have consumers that are disappointed. Right. So striking that balance, I can only imagine, as someone who does not organize these kinds of large events, must be fairly challenging. It's funny. Football is actually a sport that's like, I'm a very athletic person. I'm one of those people that can kind of like teach me something new in like 5 minutes and I will be like at least intermediate level at it. And most things with bats, I'm less good at. But I have somehow avoided the football thing. I just didn't come from a football family. Also, I grew up like in South Philly, South Jersey, and the Philadelphia Eagles fans are absolutely batshit, and I do not want to be aligned with them. But I went to actually a nude beach yesterday in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, with my partner, and he's like, I have to find somebody to throw a football with, and I'm like, am I fucking invisible? Like, do you not see me? So I literally threw a football for the first time yesterday on the beach, totally topless, like tits out. I'm like running and like catching, and I was having a ball. So I don't know, catch me in a few weeks or a few months. I might start adding like the football stuff into my pedigree.
You're a Jill of all trades. You're taking all. You're the Jill of all trades.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to say this, Miss Andre Shakti. I'm going to say right now, if anybody doesn't add this, I will. One of the things I love about the name Shakti, you can add that shock treatment. You know what I'm saying? If you want to end your opponents, hit them with that shock treatment. I just put it into your head there. Hell yes.
Well, I always, a lot of times on porn sets. So the way that I got that name, I was doing a lot of like stage performance before I started porn. And when I was going under the name Roma Mafia, because also very Italian. And I came King.com, Ultimate Surrender, literally my first porn shoot of my life. Like, what a fucking shoot to do for your first porn shoot. And they were like, yeah, you can't use that name because it sounds too stagey. It doesn't sound like a real person. And I was like, seriously? And I'm thinking of all of like the porn star names that do not sound like real people. And I'm like, okay, fine. And they literally give you a baby name book. And they're like, go away, study this baby name book, I swear to God, and come back and tell me what your porn name's going to be, right? And I wanted to be intentional because I didn't want to grow up like 5, 10, 15 years from now and be like, fuck, I hate this name, I have to change it. So I very strongly identify as a woman, but I've always been very dominant. I've always been more of a masculine woman, or perceived as more of a masculine woman. And that is just fine with me. I love like interplaying with masculinity and femininity and like fucking people up and fucking people's expectations up of me. And so I wanted one name that was feminine, one name that was masculine. So Andre's the masculine, Shakti's the feminine, and both of them mean strength because I was starting my career off with that wrestling. And so, yes, both of them are very much still applicable today. And I remember on the early Ultimate Surrender sets, Ariel like could not say the name Shakti. She was like, shika. And then I was like, it's like the shocker and then T. So during every porn set, she'd like, I'd be like, boom, boom. And she's like, Shakti, got it. So yeah, I might come out with that shocker. You never know, like I might come out with that during an LFC match. We'll see.
Well, here's what I also love about it too. So again, being the wrestling fan, there was a wrestler by the name of Abyss, the Monster Abyss, for anybody who's a wrestling fan. One of his finishing moves, besides the black hole slam, which apropos of the Abyss, one of his moves was called the shock treatment. So it's pretty much like the old Lex Luger torture rack from back in the day, but he would drop down and sit, and you would have that impact off your shoulders, and they would bounce. So it has like that great ricochet effect.
Yep, it's like shocks on a car. Yeah, I like that.
And I will say this right now, I'm going to show this to the camera because you were talking about that name and I love the strength. This is probably one of my favorite rings, folks. It says strength right on it.
Oh, goodness. We definitely cannot see what it says on it.
I know. All right, I'm going to try my best here, folks. So it says strength right here. There's a little something. It's a little.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Hell yeah. We were meant to have these conversations.
Yes. So I get it. I just had to put that out there. I get it. As soon as you said strength, I'm like, oh, snap. Okay. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. I look at it from a stance too as well. When you have that type of thing, when it comes to strength, it could be internally, externally, like we talked about the beauty side of things, man. There's a lot of great women out there like yourself that really show the strength and the confidence, and dare I say, you got that swag on it, if you will, swag on 100. So it works all in all. It works with the confidence, and that's what you need to do any of this, and in life you got to have that confidence.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, over the years, people who especially have wanted to get into the sex industry in various ways, or even get into wrestling separate of, the sex industry. A lot of them are like, I don't have the confidence, right? Like I would be a stripper, but I don't have the confidence. I'd be in porn, but I don't have the confidence. And I'm like, literally, confidence is what you make it. I wasn't always this person, right? Like especially when you just get into the sex industry, there are lots of insecurities. There's a lot of, kind of wanting to conform to what everyone wants of you. There's a lot of, projecting things that aren't necessarily like authentic feeling to you. And, a lot of people can't really hack it in the sex industry and they drop out, within a year or two. The best suggestion I have for building up that confidence is don't read the fucking comments. Don't. Like, I'm 15 years in this industry. I can read all the fucking comments people make about me. They bounce off me. Teflon Don, remember. They bounce right off. And I look at them as opportunities to like either fuck people up or prove them wrong. And, but also faking it till you make it. You fake that fucking confidence. The only person that knows it isn't authentic to you is you. And you fake that shit long enough, you project that shit long enough, you build yourself up in a way that you don't truly believe in just yet long enough. One day you wake up, you realize you aren't faking anymore. And that shit is legitimate and it's powerful and it's coming from you. And it's not like you putting on an act anymore. And that is like the most beautiful fucking thing that I get to watch some people go through, you know, especially in this industry.
And I think the negativity breeds negativity, but also at the same time, it's how you react to those comments. It's like you can either brush it off and let it motivate you, or you can let it get to you. And I'll say to anybody, don't let it get to you, because you know who
exactly
you are, human being. And you know what? In the days of social media, I'm going to say right now, there's a lot of people who are assholes who just don't, who do a lot of this. It's like the master of disguise. This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do. So
there's too much of this, too little of that. Too much.
Right, we're all not turtly enough for the turtle club. So anyway, I digress. No, it's one of those. It's one of those.
Isn't this entire podcast just a giant digression from LFC when you look at it? Delightfully so. Delightfully so.
Yes. But no, I think what's great about, well, first of all, we're two passionate people that love what we do. So we're gonna go off to kilter sometimes, which is fine. But no, I mean, from social media and anything in general, I think including the introduction of TikTok now, where everything's just about dancing and stuff, which I look at TikTok, if you look at it, it's kind of like an upgraded version of Vine, right? Remember Vine back in the day?
I will say that I have not, like, I do not, I'm such a busy person. I have had to like limit my social media platforms because I had an executive assistant at one point. I don't anymore. I'm thinking about picking one back up now after COVID. Yeah, I was just like I was like, I don't have time to learn TikTok. I'm like, I don't have time to learn, what's the other one? Snapchat. I'm like, I don't have time for this fuck shit. Like, I just make like unilateral decisions for myself about like what will be relevant and what won't be for like who I am, you know. And I think that if I were really concerned with like building a younger fan base, I would very much commit to those platforms, but that's just never really been a priority of mine. So yeah, I don't have much familiarity. I will just go ahead and say that right now.
I'll put this out there, girl. I didn't even have MySpace back in the day. I was not into that social media either. I'll give you a funny story here. So my senior year of high school, and I'll say this to you, I was the kid in high school, the senior. I got along with everybody. So, you know, I was cool with everybody. So there was a sophomore. Her name was Jackie. She was a sweetheart of a girl. She's doing her thing now, and I wish her nothing but continued success.
God bless you, Jackie. Great.
So the thing about her too, she's like, you know, I want to add you on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't have Facebook. And she goes, you don't have Facebook? And I'm like, no, I don't do it. You know what I'm saying? I did it. So that's why I started up to be friends with some of my peers and family and what have you in my line of work.
Yeah, networking.
Right. So I like the first day I got like 40 requests. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And then it took off from there. And here's the thing. It's a love-hate relationship with social media. But for me, like there's TikTok, there's Snapchat, like you mentioned. I don't got time for that. Just give me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I don't need anything else.
Yeah. Especially as a sex worker, you know, we're constantly getting kicked off of platforms, and we are constantly put in a position where we, like, as soon as we feel settled in ourselves and like our marketing and our promotion and our branding and everything, we do all this work, we feel really good about it. All of a sudden the rug is ripped out under our feet. There is no accountability. There is no retribution we can take. We literally just have to like, we usually take a day or a week to like mourn, and then we have to immediately pivot. Like, we have to learn how to pivot and how to like find a fill-in for whatever we just lost. And that is a constant thing that sex workers are forced to do on the internet. And it really hits us with social media. You know, you see a lot of very famous sex workers, especially porn stars, and they are constantly having their account shut down. They are constantly having their email servers shut down. They are constantly redirecting their fans to different platforms to try and distribute their content. And it is fucking exhausting. And yeah, I would not have social media, period, the end. I'd be like you if I didn't do this for a living. If I was just the Ariana Travellini, the veterinary technician, I would not have a single lick of fucking social media. My boyfriend, he doesn't have a fucking single lick of social media. Like, I like in-person interactions more. You know, I'm 33 years old. I was on the very, 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 very like I don't know if you say like late or early millennial stage. Like I'm on like the late end, like age-wise of the millennials. I still grew up without computers and a cell phone until I was like 15 or so, 15, 16. And so even when it comes to sex work, my favorite kind of sex work isn't even porn. It's in person. It's stripping. It's the pro-domination work, the sensual massage work that I offer. I also do I'm also a full service dom, and I advertise full service dom work. And I just love people. I love figuring out what makes people tick. I love like having, learning about them, learning about their bodies, learning about like their backgrounds with, whatever it is they're coming to me about, and like figuring out how to facilitate a safe, like positive space for them to explore that. Like that is like the meat of what really gets me excited about this work. The digital stuff was more of a pivot, when COVID happens, if you weren't like making the most out of digital sex work or digital media in the first place, you certainly were learning how the fuck to do so as a survival mechanism. But I still prefer, especially one of the reasons I'm so excited about LFC, it's not just virtual. I am gunning for that in-person event because that is really where like my heart is.
I will say this Italian woman over here, because like my grandmother, God rest her soul, Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, always talk about being a Napoli Don. Let me tell you something. There's a bunch of people who stu nod out there. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of stu nod people out there that don't understand the world that we do.
Yes.
Right? What we do.
Oh my gosh, wait. I do want to tell you a story, only because you've been telling a few stories. I want to tell you a story. Also, I'm going to have to go soon. So this is a good story to wrap up on. All right. I just want to illustrate how Italian I am. So have you seen The Sopranos?
Yes.
Okay. So in The Sopranos, it's a strip club in North Jersey. It's called like the Bada Bing, Bada Boom Room, something like that. Right? Okay. The strip club in The Sopranos was actually at the time of filming a fully operational strip club that just operated under a different name in Northern New Jersey. Now I've already explained my Italian background, right? My Italian roots. When I was 7 years old, my grandfather on my mother's side died of a heart attack at home. It was very sad. I remember a lot of that process. And that was it, and I grew up in an Italian Catholic family, but not one that was particularly conservative. And so when I was 18, I started stripping. I thought that, they might be a little like irked by it, but they had this like venomous reaction to it. And I was at like a bikini bar. I wasn't even like taking my clothes off at the time. And I'm like, wow, like they are really like, they really hate me for this. Put a stop in that, right? Fast forward to 4 years ago, I'm about to move back to Baltimore, to the East Coast from California. And I'm sitting at a dinner with my father, who has a brain injury. And he just apropos of nothing brings up the fact that, oh yeah, your grandfather didn't die at home. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, your grandfather died like in a private room at the fucking strip club that was featured in The Sopranos in North Jersey on a work trip. And your uncle and I had to drive up and like facilitate the transport of the body and do this whole cover up to like not make it seem like he died at the strip club. So when I was coming back, I was like, I'm going to fucking drive to North Jersey and I'm going to audition at this club and I'm going to pull a fucking shift at this club, like in his memory. Like this would be such an amazing, like full circle thing, right? They won't let me audition. I went super public with this, like on the internet, like 2 or 3 years ago. And the club has no interest in having me there. They're like, we don't care about this story. We don't do auditions. We don't fuck with like dancers who don't live here. Like, sorry, not sorry. Meanwhile, a few of the bouncers from the club are DMing me on Facebook saying they remember when that happens. They remember hearing about it and they really hope the club changes their mind. So that's like this beautiful story illustrating exactly how Italian I am and why my family hates strippers so fucking much.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all,
oh gosh.
Well, number one, it all comes full circle. Number two, woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. And number three, I will say this. I think you're doing your grandfather proud and keep doing what you're doing because I'm sure he's
Thank you. I would hope that my grandfather, like his spirit just shines down on me anyway whenever I'm just grinding my ass into some man's face in a private room. Like that's really what I'm channeling.
Hey, folks, family is an amazing thing, and we create a lot of moments and memories, which you, Miss Andre, are going to continue to do. And I'm going to say this before we wrap this up, man. We got to get a round 2 up on here, man. You're more than welcome to come back on the overtures here. I definitely really enjoyed this conversation today.
I would love to. I used to do a lot of podcasts, a lot of radio shows, also mostly prior to COVID, and I miss it. And you are so wonderful to talk to, and all of these topics obviously have me like so engaged and so excited. So anytime, I'd be happy to come back.
I'm just saying, you got to be aware of them flugazes, huh? Them flugazes. No. Before we can close this out, this is where I step back. Women, ladies first, not just a Queen Latifah song, last pop culture reference. Please promote the Twitter, Instagram, OnlyFans. Everybody can follow you on all social media platforms. The floor is yours.
All right. So my name is Andre Shakti. I can be found pretty much anywhere on the internet. You can Google Andre Shakti, see everything from my sexual education work and my sex writing work to my video content to the virtual strip club that I run. It's called Sanctuary, and it happens every other Saturday, every second and fourth Saturday. And it's an all LGBTQ cast of dancers, and it's diverse and it's rotating, and we get really fucking filthy. And it's only $5 to come in and get virtual lap dances, virtual champagne rooms, drink with us, party with us. It's a good fucking time. So check us out, sanctuarytheclub.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Andre Shakti. That's ANDRE SHAKTI. You can find me on Instagram as @_Andre Shakti _. Oftentimes, because sex workers are shadow banned heavily on the internet, you have to type in the entire handle and hit search. I will not populate the field. And again, another form of online censorship that we all despise, but I trust that you all will just get over that hump and access those profiles anyway. I am Andre Shakti on Facebook. I am Andre Shakti on FetLife if you're a kinky motherfucker like me. And I do have an Andre Shakti OnlyFans. Right now, it's mostly sexy photo sets, video clips of me fucking in my real life when I'm like throwing down, and a lot of promotion on how to support me and other platforms and where you can meet me or find me. I also give discounts like free access to my strip club, free access to my in-person strip club. If y'all are in the Baltimore, DC, Virginia area, you want to come watch me dance. And that's about it. I just, I'm over here living my best life, loving what I'm doing. And I'm so glad that there is an entire community, a new community that I get to break into here with LFC.
Final promotion for LFC Madness for the round 3. It does close tomorrow. So we got Boatwright, Zazzy Boatwright, the motherfucker, which great name, against Savannah Fox. Chaos versus Victoria Cat. Melanie Monroe against Susanna Banana, ring, 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 banana phone. And we got Andre Shakti against Franny Duran, the Lady Queen. Do you have any final words for your opponent in round 3, Franny Duran?
Franny Duran, I want to see some action. Franny Duran, I want to feel like we're really in this together. So, I got a few other call outs up my sleeve, or therefore lack of, and I just challenged Franny Duran to get right back to me, to show me what she's got, to give me maybe put a little tremor in my boots, so to speak. I love that interplay. So Franny Duran, I am ready and waiting for you. I hope you hear my call.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. Check out LFC Network on Roku, where you can see this show and you can see this face all on the Roku and them muscles. Hell yeah. So, guys, once more, as I always say with this show, beauty, strength, and dominance, the 3 key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Andre Shakti, the Sidewinder. I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
LFC Booty Camp 4, Friday, May 13th. Be there, FSW Arena. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. If you can't watch it, check it out on LFCfights.com. We will see you on May 13th.